All right. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Rockman, for putting this on. I'd like to wonder if anybody here actually saw an advertisement of me in front of this slide like this, because it turned out to be the most effective ad that they had to get people to learn about this conference. And it's an interesting thing because I hear it and I'm not surprised. And it's the first tip that you can all take, that if you have your spokesman online look like he's recently suffered a stroke, key ingredient to getting a lot of clicks. We actually study that all the time at our business and think all the time about, well, what is it that makes people click on things? And to give a bit more of a background than Dave gave about my company, it's a clothing company. It's all it is. But we make and release a new product, sometimes 2 or 3 every day. So it's a machine that we built that's designed to be a clothing company that operates a little bit more at an internet rate, where we reinvent ourselves on a daily basis. So Betabrand's a clothing company, and I'm now going to take you through how we sell this clothing company through all these stories that I've encountered along the way. And all these things just represent communication challenge for a business that started for $5,000, and it started 10 years ago. So for 10 years, I've been gainfully employed in the fashion industry with no background that came before it. And so comedy as a competitive advantage has been something that an investor once told me, because he thought that that's what I did. So I will take you through some great stories of Betabrand. First off, when I started, the motto of the company was that an evil multinational corporation had to start somewhere. So it was a one-man show, and I made horizontal corduroy pants. They were called Cordarounds, and I assumed that I'd be in the business of selling stuff online for all of about 3 to 5 months. It was really just something that I did as a portfolio piece. The idea was that if I had unfettered access to the internet and I created a company that was just based on jokes, I would have an amazing portfolio piece that I could then use to get a job doing something where I get a weekly paycheck. The thing is, I succeeded so well at doing that because the objective was only to be funny. So I started off by selling Cordarounds by way of the crotch heat index. As you can see, we'll move on to the graphic here. I just made horizontal corduroy pants. Nobody else made horizontal corduroy pants. The idea was that I would sell these things through aerodynamics. And once I thought more about aerodynamics, I said, well, what about the friction that's caused when you walk along wearing regular corduroy pants? And so we then, bamboozled the internet by explaining how the horizontal wales reduce your inner thigh friction, lowering your crotch heat index by an astonishing 12%. And also going into the details of identifying it as the CHI, as if this is important medical terminology. So that began the process of interacting with the internet, and the New York Times covered Cordarounds.com 2.5 weeks after it launched. So I was in business, and I knew nothing about the clothing business at all. And over the course of a year, because I took this approach of just trying to entertain people, and by that I meant I sent out newsletters every week to people who own these things and gave them jokes. Essentially, I was giving people lines so that when they talked about their Cordarounds at dinner parties or at bars, they always had a joke to give. So for me, I was thinking, well, I'm always thinking these things. Why don't I just feed lines to the people who own them? Which then created the editorial policy of Cordarounds and now Betabrand that's existed for 10 years, is that we tell stories about products where the products themselves are incidental to the story. And it's really important to think of it that way, because our objective is just to get people to read something and to click something. And again, a person who believes in the quantifiable side of this would explain, of course, those are logical things. But I'm always concerned about if I receive, and everybody's inboxes are absolutely filled with spam, and hopefully some of that spam is mine, I just try to make it as interesting possible. So I assume that everybody can actually make the leap from saying, yeah, I see a picture of the product, yeah, I might want that sweater, but why do they have to spend a lot of time talking about the sweater? Can't they talk about some dumb story related to that sweater so I might actually be entertained? So I'll take you through examples of this. A product that we sell is called Vagisoft. This was suggested to me from an old business partner, very creative person who worked with me. He said, we basically, early on, it was like, I got to make a product, he got to make a product, I got to make a product, he made a product. And so he said, hey, I found this really soft fabric, I want to call it Vagisoft. And to me, I was like, well, that sounds real locker room humor. And it's just struck me as something that could fall totally flat and would just have people unfairly looking at us as just being fratty assholes. So I said, let's apply the scientific approach to this thing and see if we could make a joke. So as you can see, this is the first product that's ever sold that is in fact softer than the anus of a silkworm. When you're talking about the anuses of silkworms, all of a sudden people aren't thinking about, is it sexist to have vag in the title of a product? And it allowed us the distance that I thought we needed to make a good joke and actually sell a product. Along the way, I've realized that the big thing about Betabrand or selling online, so we only sell online, we don't sell through anyone else, is that the medium awareness is obviously the most important thing. So the line I like to give is that it's, the internet is a world of trolls and cats and porn and cat on troll porn. I mean, it will always, always blow your mind by how gross or weird stuff is on the internet. But if you're never truly aware of that, not trying to take advantage of that in some way, then you're really not playing on the right field. So, we play with that all the time. We made a XXX version of our website, knowing that that's the kind of thing that people like to share and talk about. So the whole thing was a joke about porn and websites, because we knew that there was a new XXX domain that came out. But the whole thing was nobody was expecting big businesses, and we pretend to be a big business. There's 60 people who work for Betabrand, but we were the only corporate, XXX domain site. And I knew that that would get press and press attention because of the fact that it was news that there was this new domain, but nobody was using it. So we did, and then we became the example that everyone said is like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Here's what it looks like when a company actually becomes a porn version of itself. Obviously you got to do the cat jokes. So we work with the masters of the cat joke, which are the folks at Cheeseburger. It's a really fascinating business because that's run by, they are like, the warehouse of every cat joke and fail on the internet. And it's run by a guy named Ben-Ha who's really quantitatively oriented. So he's a person that can actually speak about behavior and the amount of time and seconds that people spend on a joke. But they said, well, why don't we create human outfits for cats? Well, funny and interesting enough. But we did this for April Fool's Day, which I don't know if anyone here plays the game of online jokes and stuff for April Fools, but it's become this wonderful and very difficult thing where you now have ad agencies. Any smart ad agency right now is trying to sell $1 million campaigns to their big corporate clients that they gotta play the April Fool's joke game. So what's funny for us is that we're always trying to do things as cheaply as possible because we don't have that budget. So this is an example where we competed with Domino's and Google and Hertz and all these businesses that spent gobs of money to be relevant that day, and all we did was draw stupid human outfits on cats. Again, the nice thing is that there's this level playing field on the internet where if you kind of go one note stupider, you can always be recognized for it. So this is the other one that we got up, which is, of course, adult underwear. Adult undergarments, an important thing. So we wondered what it would be like to have sexier versions of Depends and that we could make them. So as you can see, punchline, yes, it has an absorption power with blue curacao there. These, again, are just Photoshop stunts that allowed us to land in a place where you really had top-tier agencies with big companies making jokes, but we stood up among them. We always do. That's always the point with Betabrand. We do something called Newsjacking. We're always trying to be part of the bigger stories as cheaply as possible. A joke, and this is really just problem solving. Really, view these examples that I give as us trying to solve problems and doing so as cheaply as possible. Horrible homepage. Anyone who has to recruit engineering talent knows that it costs a lot of money. You often have to pay recruiters, and those recruiters are going to charge you up to 25 or 30% of the cost of the annual salary of a person. And that's just money that we didn't have. So when we had our UX designer leave, what I instructed the rest of the engineering team to do the next day was to make our homepage look as terrible as possible. And the objective would be to promote this to all the publications that talk about web design. And we would be the worst homepage on the entire internet for an entire day, with the objective being to use that to lure a UX, UI developer to come to the company. And we got hundreds of applications. Why? Because it was web news for the day. Like, how stupid or funny is it that this business would actually destroy its homepage in the name of finding a developer? Well, it worked. And that was us just having the guts and the fun to say, let's just destroy the thing. Well, we set out to do it by measuring whether it actually affected the sales of our business, and the sales went up about 3x that day because we had 10x the traffic. So even as hard as we made it to navigate off of our homepage to find these products, people came and were willing to play along with us. It's an important thing to recognize that internet sites are there for people to visit them and share them. And we don't always, so we put out 2 products a day, but sometimes the products are fake and stupid and designed to make people laugh. This is another April Fool's joke we did. This is where we made not safe for workwear. So the joke, the joke being that they were nipple-less shirt for executives, and as a result of actually buying one stock photography photo and photoshopping in some nipples on this man, we got a lot of attention. So, you know, the real thing here is us recognizing that we can get tons of eyeballs to come onto our site, but then we also have enough quantitative minds in our company to recognize that by getting a ton of traffic, you ultimately open up a vast cookie pool of people who then can be retargeted with advertising to come back again. So, you know, we try to lure the right eyeballs to our audience so that we can then subject them to ads of regular things. But believe it or not, when people come to look at the not safe for workwear, they end up buying our regular workwear. An important observation I had along the way, I thought to myself, because I couldn't afford a PR firm, I would just write journalists on my own. And I imagine what it must be like for the journalists to be the recipients of hundreds and hundreds of messages each day saying, hot for fall sweaters, hot for fall denim, hot for fall hoodies. I mean, it would just be over and over and over. And I've seen PR work, and I realize that journalists, they lie a little bit higher on the pyramid of talent. So they're likely having to be subjected to people who are far less talented, I would say, as writers than they are, and their inboxes are swamped with them. So I said, well, why don't I just write really funny stories to journalists, and if they're interested in getting to know me and our products, then they'll do the math and say, all right, this product's pretty interesting, but thank you for actually not making my eyeballs melt with another boring story. So I started measuring the effect of Betabrand's press releases by the amount of my own language that showed up in news stories. So a good example here is for a product that I made called Couch Commandos, and they are kind of military attire for people who sit around on their couch playing first-person shooter video games. Now, I don't have a photo of that, I forgot to get it, but read the quote that I got in, and this is the Times-Picayune, but we've done the same thing in major newspapers, but I got to have this quote from me exist in the world and be published. Please read. I mean, I got to talk about unspooling intestines in a significant newspaper, and these are quotes that are attributed to me. And what I love about it is that if you write something funny enough, journalists who, for either the sake of it being easier for them to republish everything, or just because they think it's funny, are going to take you word for word and put that out there. So I didn't fool a journalist, I made her laugh. And this happens all the time with products we put out. Good example here of how to look at media and how to interact with it and understand the benefits it has. TV, as it turns out, doesn't really sell any Betabrand products at all. We're covered often in Good Morning America and Today's Show and so on and so forth, but you always sit back waiting for the traffic to come, and it never comes. So I had the opportunity to speak on Fox Business News, and they had me on because they thought it would be funny to talk to me about stuff, and I took it a note further. I turned my entire discussion into that about genital modems and how that was a new product we were putting out, and the result was, which was awesome, is that got more social traffic from me just saying that I said that. So just telling our audience, like, yeah, it was pretty funny, Fox had me on, and they stuffed me between a story about exotic animal excrement and like some new jockstrap design. So I already realized that I was being put on there to be this, to be sandwiched between two stupid stories. I just tried to make the meat of the sandwich even stupider than the stories I guess the slices of bread. But I found that the social sharing of the fact that I was on Fox talking about genital modems actually was worth a lot more to our company than it was just to say, hey, let's hope that the Fox audience comes and buys stuff at Betabrand. I'm proud to announce today a new invention of ours. This is our first video game. What's nice is the budget has gone up for these stunts, so I can now afford to work with game developers. And this actually now goes to the story I said earlier about newsjacking. So I know every year we witness the holidays start earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. And if you're a retail reporter, a business reporter, you are obligated to talk about when Amazon or Target first declares holiday sale. It's your job. It's an annual right that goes on in the business world. We must report on the first sales for the holiday. It's very important for our economy, and it's very important to the retail world. So what also happens is that there's the cultural response that occurs where people complain, well, now the fall is lost, Black Friday has become Black Fall, blah, blah, blah. The world is coming to an end because, Santa's on this nonstop rampage that starts earlier. So I imagined what it would be like if Santa were to actually conquer Halloween. And as you can see here, you have Santa Claus plunging the candy cane into Dracula's chest and killing him. We actually made a video game of that, and it launches formally tomorrow, but you can still find it on our website today. And it's ridiculous. But I create that because I know that there's a news story to come out with it. The New York Times actually covered our development of this a week ago. So not only was I aware of an opportunity, we actually know with certainty that this is something that's going to get a great deal of attention. So the amount of attention depends on whether the video game press really likes it. But here's an example where we actually know that there's a phenomena that's going to occur, and we're the company that has the guts to play with it. Another example we have that sort of speaks to the importance of comedy. We launched a women's line last spring, and to me, again, people at our business, if you work for us, you model for us. If you're a friend of someone who works for us, you model for us. If you're a neighbor, yes, you too have to model for us. So we've never really cared who our models are, as long as they're into it and they want to have fun with us. So we said, well, let's launch our spring line where we're only going to get women with PhDs to be our models, because this apparently has never been thought of in the world of fashion before. And it was a giant press hit for us because, oh my God, is it possible that women with brains could look good in clothing? And that it would be interesting to an audience of women who are intelligent too. And that seemed very logical to me, but we were the first ones to really do it. So how do you keep that going? So we thought it'd be fun to actually have women who are stand-ups or comedy writers to be our models this fall. And the result was similar and the same. Got a lot of attention because it was a discussion about why is it that these women are funny, what makes them interesting. So we actually have really cool interviews with all these women on our website. We were able to get 15 women to model. Margaret Cho designed a product for us. And it's this sort of thing that keeps delivering for us, where by showing new audiences people who are intelligent and actually having them talk about what it is that they do well is the reason why people show up to events like this, and could be the reason why they buy clothing too. The result of this is we get press attention that's nuts. And I say this not to brag, I say it because it's a conference, and the objective of some people here is to learn, to say, well, how is it that we could communicate about our company to actually get more attention? So, our business is attracting eyeballs, and this approach, which is to come up with new web-friendly things, I have a figure of speech, I call it being fashion forwardable. Our fashion forwardable ideas get us covered in the news nonstop. And by that I mean every few days. So it's something for you all to think about if you work in the business of trying to promote your business, that my approach has always worked. It's worked for 10 years straight. And that's been to say, create your business as something that wants to talk to people, show that you're intelligent by being humorous, and have humor not necessarily be the product you sell, but the person that is selling the product to other intelligent people. Anyhow, I think that's the last slide, so I'll take questions now, and I think I've got 6 seconds. I've got more time than that. Thank you.